Hey folks, this is Devnal. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm reporting from a large American parking garage. Not any garage, mind you. This is the American Dream, a 3 million square foot shopping center mega mall located in scenic East Rutherford, New Jersey. The American Dream is actually the second largest shopping mall in America, second only to Mall of America. This palace to consumerism, formerly known as Xanadu, had a very tumultuous history. It took almost 20 years for this project to be completed, opening its doors for the very first time in 2019, just 1 year before a global pandemic. Probably not the best time to open a mega mall, but here we are. Now, the future of the American Dream is currently unclear. Will it actually be a success and stand the test of time? Or will it shortly follow in the steps of so many of America's shopping malls? In case you didn't get the memo, malls are dying. Do you live in America in the first half of the 21st century? Well, if you're anything like me, then you do, and chances are you have some idea as to what a mall is. But for those living in Bezos, a new disruptive nation designed by Amazon in the year 2059, allow me to explain what a mall is. Or at least what it was, because malls are dying. And there's an entire community of people on the internet right now chronicling this mass retail extinction event. They're documenting commercial decay in vivid detail and serving as digital historians, preserving a small chapter of American history for future generations. But we'll get back to that later. After World War II in the early 1950s, the United States began constructing suburbia, a place where millions of people would convince themselves that the meaning of life was having 2.5 children and a white picket fence. That is to say, thanks to rising purchasing power, a strong manufacturing industry, high unionization rates, and middle-class affluence, many millions of people were fleeing crowded cities into their very own little houses that they bought with their very own little mortgage loans. However, there was a downside to living in the burbs, and that was alienation. Most folks would just shuffle back and forth between their home and their job without a space to socialize, exchange ideas, and engage with their community. Enter Victor Gruen, an Austrian architect who, in 1956, constructed the very first shopping mall in the United States, Southdale in Edina, Minnesota. Gruen, ironically a socialist, originally intended the shopping mall to be a cure for the loneliness and social stagnation that he felt accompanied the suburban lifestyle. The shopping mall would be a place of culture, art, discourse, a place that would emulate the tight-knit European communities that inspired Gruen. But as many of us know, the mall ultimately became a place to buy Wetzel's pretzels, discount sneakers, and, if you're lucky, you can spot a scene queen in an Invader Zim t-shirt smoking a cigarette behind a dumpster. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Let's not forget about the golden age of the American shopping mall, and that's the 80s. When most people look back on shopping malls with nostalgia goggles, it's the 1980s version of the mall that they imagine.
You can get anything you want here pretty much. You know, like you can go for records or for guitars, and you can go for clothes.
Well, it's a nice place to shop.
That's it, huh?
Yeah, nice.
A lot of different people, believe me.
A whole bunch.
Why do you show up here? Why do you shop here, or why do you just hang out?
To look for stuff, you know.
Yeah? Like what kind of stuff?
Records, books, you know, girls.
Yeah, you shop for girls. That's pretty good.
Look for them. We don't shop for them.
Oh, yeah? Where do you want to find the girls? Where do the good looking girls hang out?
All around, yeah.
You find a lot of them in Burger King now.
It was a time when neon-filled windows were lined with the latest fashions, the food court always smelled like pizza and french fries, and arcades bellowed the electric thunder of quarter-munching video games.
Every day I just come over here and play. I spend sometimes $15 a week in quarters just to play games. It's just a habit, that's all, really.
Well, what are your favorites?
Gallagher, Laxian, and Frogger.
And of course, the mall was full of people. Lots and lots of people. But then, one day, silence. These retail palaces, thriving cities of consumerism, have been reduced to pitiable relics of the past, and in some cases, rubble. Many American shopping malls are struggling to survive. Some are just barely scraping by, a pathetic display compared to their glory years, while others are already doomed, shuttered, and marked for demolition. So what happened to America's malls? Is this just one of many symptoms of a system in chronic crisis, or an ill omen of the economy of the future, or a harbinger of a cyberpunk dystopia where tech giants and retail megacorporations reign over the world like tyrants?
Excuse me, folks. Sorry.
An article written in 2019 for the Washington Post states the following. In the past decade, as shopping dollars migrated online and a parade of well-known retailers toppled, the malls that didn't evolve fast enough stumbled into a devastating cycle of dwindling traffic, lower sales, and disappearing storefronts. The article also mentions that at the end of 2019, just before the coronavirus pandemic hit, there were over 10,000 retail store closings across the country, and many companies that were once staples of the shopping mall, Sears, Charlotte Russe, Payless Shoes, even retail giants like Macy's began closing stores at an unprecedented level. And once those big box anchor stores like Lord & Taylor, Sears, and Macy's shut their doors for good, it's only a matter of time before the smaller stores die off as well. Obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic has devastated many small businesses and brick-and-mortar stores, while online retailers like Amazon have made money hand over fist with record-breaking profits. It seems that many American shopping malls are just destined for destruction. The pandemic seems to have just been the final nail in the coffin for what was already a bleak prognosis. An article from Forbes in 2019 explains, as search data shows, malls as a means of find, seek, and destroy product acquisition are no longer relevant. According to Survada, when consumers know what they want to buy, 85% of the time they go to Amazon or Google to find what they want. It's easier to look things up and buy them online than it is to go to the mall. According to the initial research that I conducted online, it seems like the most obvious reason that malls are dying is because of online retailers like Amazon, but the truth may be a little bit more complicated than that. To get to the bottom of this, I spoke with some experts, dead mall content creators. Now, these mall explorers travel across the country documenting dead malls for people to see on their YouTube channels. While there are dozens of documentaries and articles and op-eds that cover the death of the American shopping mall, in this documentary, I wanted to highlight something different, and that's the folks who are documenting this retail apocalypse. I want this to be a sort of celebration of this niche group of artists and amateur historians who dedicate their time to making some really awesome content for everyone. And now, without further ado, allow me to introduce my guests.
My name is Erik Pierson, and I run the Retail Archaeology channel on YouTube.
My name is Salvatore Amadeo, and my channel is Sal.
Okay, first things first, we need to settle this question. Why are dead malls dying?
Amazon, in some cases, is the straw that broke the camel's back for some of them, but it's definitely not like the cause of all malls dying. Like Amazon isn't even really killing brick and mortar retail when you dig into it. Brick and mortar retail still is a big majority of retail sales. Less of that's happening in malls, more of it's happening in Target and Walmart and places like that. But yeah, Amazon's not helping the situation at all. If anything, it's kind of accelerating it, but it definitely was not the root cause.
I get into arguments every day in my comment section and Twitter, everywhere, about how everyone thinks Amazon killed the mall, which isn't true. It most certainly is not true. What killed the mall was other malls. Overmalling, competition. For instance, right now I'm working on a piece for the Chapel Hill Mall, and The Rolling Acres Mall, which was right nearby, that died because of Chapel Hill. As the malls failed to adapt, places like Amazon, whatever online retailers, they just saw a hole in the market and they shifted their focus. Amazon once just sold books. Facebook, you could only sign on if you had an edu address back in the day. They just adapted to this stuff, and that's what the newer retail looks like. And as that takes hold a bit more, the previous life of retail is going to be embalmed in dead malls.
That sounds rather bleak, but accurate. So if Amazon and other online retailers aren't really the root cause of the death of shopping malls in America, then that suggests that this isn't even really a recent problem. The death of malls actually has a much deeper history than you might imagine, as does the dead mall community.
Documenting dead malls actually goes back further than YouTube. There's actually a website, it's deadmalls.com, I think, and they really started through photography, documenting dead malls in the early 2000s. A lot of people don't realize that the whole dead mall phenomenon is not really a new thing. Malls have been, some of them really started dying in the late 90s.
Deadmalls.com is a website that was founded in the year 2000 by self-described retail historians Peter Blackbird and Brian Florence. Jack Thomas joined the team a bit later in 2001 before departing in 2019. This bit of text was taken directly from the website. Having had a hand in retail working, Peter and Brian continue to devote their time to tracking the cause and effect of the dead mall phenomenon and preserving the memory of these shopping centers for years to come. Thanks to the power of the internet, we have been able to compile information from people all over the web, contributing invaluable information to our cause. Deadmalls.com seems to be the premier community-driven archive of dead malls, and well before dead mall YouTubers were ever a thing, they were hosting content like this. This was uploaded to YouTube back in its infancy in 2006. I feel like I've seen this footage somewhere before. It would be an absolute crime to talk about the online dead mall community without mentioning its original founders, Peter and Brian. Considered experts in the field of dead malls, the two were even featured in a 2009 History Channel documentary titled Malls Are Us, about the decline of America's shopping malls. Of course, as time went on, YouTube usurped deadmalls.com as the central gathering place of dead mall explorers. Interestingly, Jack Thomas of deadmalls.com has joined the contemporary dead mall community over on YouTube with his own channel called Retailpocalypse. The footage you're seeing now is taken from Jack's channel. When I was interviewing Erik from Retail Archaeology, he actually mentioned that deadmalls.com was a really great resource for him when he first started making content on YouTube.
So that it actually started back then, and so that was when I started doing research. I came across that first and started digging into that, and then obviously looking on YouTube. And there's some videos here and there, but actually another creator did get started before me. I'm sure you've heard of Dan Bell.
Dan Bell, the godfather of the dead mall community on YouTube. Here he is speaking at a TEDx conference on the topic of dead malls back in 2017. Dan Bell is an independent filmmaker and YouTuber most notable for his Dead Mall series, as well as his explorations of trashy hotels featured in a web series called Another Dirty Room, which is currently in its 3rd season. The Dead Mall series is a huge inspiration for both of the Dead Mall creators that I've interviewed in this documentary, as well as countless others, I'm sure. The Dead Mall series began in 2015. An early episode at Fredericktown Mall codified the style that nearly all Dead Mall creators would emulate in the future. The format essentially consists of a first-person walkthrough of the Dead Mall, with voiceover narration recorded afterwards, in a style similar to director's commentary.
Hi, this is Dan Bell, and we are at the Fredericktown Mall, which is worse than a dead mall. It's an abandoned, closed mall. This is the layout of the mall. As you can see right here, this hallway is awesome. It looks like Day of the Dead. Look at that. So here's the entrance that's in the front of the mall on the Route 40 side, next to Home Depot. And I'm going to walk up here and look around. Lots of litter and leaves and cigarette butts and everything you could imagine. Right there, someone broke in that window, and I believe that was a bank. And when they got inside, the inside door was locked to get into the mall, so they broke that window too.
Early on, Dan Bell's Dead Mall series went viral in certain corners of the internet. I know that's how I personally was introduced to Dead Mall YouTube years ago. And, well, the rest is history. Okay, so this kind of content obviously went viral, but, you know, even I find it a little bit weird that this got such a cult following. Dan Bell himself, at his TEDx presentation, admits that the popularity of his own content surprised him at first.
So when I started producing the Dead Mall series, I put the videos up onto YouTube, and while I thought they were interesting, I didn't think others would, frankly, I didn't think others would share the enthusiasm for such a drab and depressing topic.
I figured the best way to find out why Dead Mall content is so interesting to so many people is to just ask the experts. I mean, what is it about Dead Mall content that resonates with people so much?
You know, I think it's a handful of things. I think one is nostalgia. You know, there's the nostalgia is a hell of a drug, you know. So I think a big part of it is that. Also, I think part of it is kind of the watching a car crash, you know, the whole rubbernecking thing. You're kind of watching a slow motion car crash and watching the demise of something. So it's kind of a, you know, kind of a macabre thing a little bit.
It's weird because if you look at the age groups that are watching this stuff, it opens up a lot of insight. A lot of viewers are coming in from the 30 plus crowd. In that age group, when we were kids, we didn't have the internet mainstream yet. That wasn't given to us as something that was already developed. You went and hung out with your friends, and it was a big social thing. And you would go to the mall, and you would have to buy video games at the mall. You'd have to buy comics. You'd have to go school shopping at the mall. Everything revolved around that outlet. But when you throw this image in front of somebody's face, this dead mall, this, you know, the 90s aesthetic, if you throw that in somebody's face, coupled with, you know, vaporwave and Muzak and all that stuff.
Hold up a second. Sal just used the term vaporwave. I'd like to take a very brief detour and just quickly explain what vaporwave is for the uninitiated. Vaporwave is a multimedia art movement that spawned in the early 2010s that encompasses music, visual art, and fashion. Its music is usually defined by its pitch-shifted remix takes on 80s and 90s pop music, as well as smooth jazz and Muzak, oftentimes utilizing uncleared samples. Visually, it makes use of nostalgic, surrealist, retrofuturist, and dystopian themes, and frequently appropriates corporate advertising. I could do an entire video attempting to define vaporwave, but I felt the need to at least give a brief breakdown here since it's so entwined with the aesthetics of Dead Mall content. Okay, now I'm going to let Sal finish explaining why he thinks that people love Dead Mall content so much.
It's comfortable, and it's this thing that I've tried to dissect in my videos, which is a feeling for a nostalgic feeling for something that you will never be able to experience again. And that feeling kind of wells up when people watch this stuff, at least from what they tell me. But then there's another side of it, of the younger generations. They haven't experienced that stuff. And for them, it's the feeling of anemoia, a feeling for something that you've never experienced, a nostalgic feeling for something you've never experienced. And we're sort of building that out for them. And I think that's fascinating.
As you can gather from Sal's insight here, this is a bit of a tricky thing to pin down. There's a lot of cultural, social, and psychological forces at work here that draw both older millennials and young Zoomers to engage with this kind of content. That sort of explains at least one half of the equation, the folks who consume this content, but I'm also curious about Dead Mall creators. What is it about these derelict retail spaces that interest them so much that it's become an integral part of how they live their lives and how they spend their free time? What is it that brings them coming back again and again.
What I like is when the architecture gets weird. I like something like Century 3 where, you know, if it was any other mall, it would have just been one long concourse with 2 anchors on either side, but Century 3 has like these little weird nooks and crannies. It's got the old food court and the Ward's wing and the Sears wing concourse. That whole courtyard there, it's 3 floors somehow. It's got what used to be cascading waterfalls that are now planters and columns all over the place, and it's just unique. It's something that isn't cookie cutter. Skylights, there's so many features that I look for in malls that are different in every one of them. That's what keeps me coming back. But then there's also the surrounding bits. I don't know when this is coming out, but my Chapel Hill video that's coming out, it showcases a lot of what keeps me going to these places, which is like the side quests. Like, I ran into these dirt bikers in the parking lot, and you know, we became buddies, and I started filming them, and there was all this other weird stuff going on. I was at an abandoned mall a couple weeks, I think 2 weeks ago, and the property manager there worked there as a security guard from day one, when the mall first opened, part-time. Then he became overtime the property manager, and he and I just walked around, and he just told me every little bit about this place. And where my series started as just, I'm gonna walk through this place and just give you a very simple video tour, this is it. Now, like, this episode's an hour and 10 minutes long. It's ridiculous. And it's because of the experience that was surrounding this event. I mean, that's the filming side of it, though. But then when I get back here, I have a really obsessive tendency to dig into really boring details. That's the other part, the investigation, the research, you know, doing the due diligence enough to say something that people can digest easily. That's the other half. That's the part that I enjoy.
Since I was given such a unique opportunity to really pick the brains of these mall explorers and historians, I wanted to know what their opinion on the future of America's malls will be. I want to know what will the retail landscape look like in the future, and then even beyond that, what will the legacy of these dead malls be when this retail extinction event finally comes to its conclusion?
In the future, you're going to see less shops, you're going to see more experiences, and people are going to look at the dead malls that we know of them now, the ones that are falling day by day. They're going to look at those as the catafalque of what retail used to be. It's going to be, you know, something that once stood for retail, but now it stands for what retail used to be.
When you watch my videos and things, it's like I said earlier, nostalgia is a hell of a drug, right? And that's part of the reason why I do this, and I think why people enjoy it so much is because it scratches that nostalgia itch. But I'm also very honest and open to the fact that, you know, malls are kind of temples to consumerism, basically. You know what I mean? They're probably not great, you know, for the environment, and that whole model's probably not great. That's a thing that existed, and I think it's fun to go back and remember the nostalgia of it and everything. But I think we do have to be honest with ourselves and realize, yeah, it is kind of a not great for the planet endeavor, and it's not just malls themselves, but it's like all of retail. There's a chain that I covered, Forever 21. Their business model, and it's not just them, and it's not just, you know, their brick and mortar, but there's what they're getting hurt by is internet competitors who are selling even cheaper clothes than them. But the whole concept of like fast fashion is awful, and it should probably go away. I think a lot of things are going to have to, I mean, I hope they change. I hope that we get back to, you know, where things aren't so disposable. Things are going to last hopefully longer. Like hopefully the ideas of like planned obsolescence and stuff, like there's a lot of issues with retail and with products and everything, you know, planned obsolescence, that kind of stuff. I really hope that stuff goes away. I think it has to, if we're going to really, you know, buckle down and do anything. I think, you know, Bill Nye says it best.
What I'm saying is the planet's on fucking fire.
There is, like I said, it is fun to think about and go back and be nostalgic about malls, but I mean, they are kind of terrible too. Yeah. I know a lot of people aren't going to like that I say that, but I'm honest about it. I mean, they were very fun. I'm going to miss the experiences there. I think some of them were gorgeous to look at, some of the architecture and everything, but the whole thing probably wasn't great.
Okay, I'm actually going to go off script here for a second and just talk a bit about how much I relate to Erik here. Erik has this sort of like ambivalent relationship with dead malls, while on one hand, he acknowledges probably wasn't a great, thing in the history of humanity, but, there's still this sort of, this love-hate relationship of, oh, but there's, all these like positive feelings of nostalgia associated with it. And then, things that you can genuinely appreciate, like the architecture, these really, sort of beautiful pieces of art. I kind of feel the same way about my channel, to be honest. So far, the DevNull channel has been dedicated largely to marketing and advertising, granted mostly like weird commercials and like weird advertising mascots and things like that. It's something that I've always found really interesting, but at the same time, I kind of hate advertising and marketing. Most of the time it's just a bunch of like, soulless corporations trying to like trick children into buying some shit that they don't need. And I think that's because I really appreciate the artistry behind it. These things, if you just look at them as a piece of media, they're really cool. They're bizarre. They're funny. They're oftentimes made by these people who are breaking the rules and, really trying to do something different. And I just think that's cool. Because I mean, come on, let's be real here for a second. Like, what media that you consume, whether that's a movie or a TV show, isn't in some way related to some like giant corporation that does some like really shady business practices? Anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is just that stuff is really complicated and media consumption is this very weird dynamic. And, I just kind of wanted to say that I really do relate to what Erik is saying there. Yes. All in all, the Dead Mall community has done an amazing job documenting these malls for future generations and creating some very entertaining and insightful content in the process. Dead Mall documentation is almost like this collective art and history project that folks all over the country are encouraged to engage with.
There are a lot of creators now that are making Dead Mall content, but obviously we can't get to all of them. I can only go so far. I kind of focus heavily on the West Coast. There's guys like Dan Bell that focus on the East Coast. If you've got something interesting near you and you want to go film it and put it out there for everybody so everybody else can enjoy and see it, do it. Don't feel intimidated, and just turn the comments off if you have to. But I think I get that comments a lot. I get those comments a lot where people are like, oh, this is really interesting. Where I live, my mall's going through the same thing, and I would love to take pictures of it, but I don't feel like they would be good or whatever. It's like, just go do it if you want to do it, because I'm sure there's weirder crap than any of us have filmed. I'm sure somebody lives in some little town or something in Oklahoma that has a mall that's been there since 1982, like during the boom time, and has all kinds of weird crap that nobody's ever going to get to see, unless somebody goes in there and takes pictures of it at least.
So to those of you out there that like these videos, that want to create these videos, do it. You have to do it now. These malls are dying faster than ever, and those of us that band together to do this thing, we're preserving what once was for future generations, and that's goal number one. But the secondary goal is learning how to make videos. And the community that I run a community on Discord, which we're talking on right now. So many of us have found each other, and a lot of these channels that you guys might watch have started there on DMod. If you want to join this community, if you want to get to know me and other creators, come join.
What Sal is referring to here is a Discord community that he manages called Dead Malls of Discord, or DMod. If you are interested in joining this community, I am leaving a link to join in the description below. And yeah, you can join this community and become a Dead Mall explorer yourself and make your own content for the internet to enjoy. Maybe I'd be talking about you in a follow-up to this video. Okay, so if you've made it this far into the video, chances are you might have enjoyed it. And if you did, I just wanted to let you know some things that are going on here at the channel. So recently we reached a really awesome milestone, and I was able to sign up for the YouTube partnership program. And the partner program essentially allows your channel to become monetized. Within a month, maybe even less than a month of signing up for the partner program, it was rescinded. I'm no longer part of the partner program, and the entire channel is demonetized. I'm assuming it's because of the HD Pepsi Man commercials that I uploaded. So I could remove that video and then apply for the partner program again and then maybe get monetized again. But I've thought about it and I don't want to do that. I think that having an archive of that HD Pepsi Man footage is just more important. I want people to be able to see that content, especially since, it's a character that a lot of people love, and literally this is the only place on the internet that you can find an archive of this HD footage. So I sort of feel like I have a responsibility to keep that up there so that people can see it. That being said, currently I have no plans of ever reapplying to the partner program. And at the same time, who wants to see ads in front of their YouTube videos? I mean, I know you can have like ad block and things like that, but I don't know. A lot of my videos are about commercials. Who wants to watch commercials to like watch more commercials? But I know for certain right now and for the foreseeable future, this channel is going to be completely demonetized. That being said, if you really love this channel and you would like to support me and the content that I make, Patreon is going to be more important than ever, and I'm definitely going to be focusing on it more. We have tons of like bonus content that we have on there. I do behind the scenes stuff. I have a podcast on there where I talk about the channel, behind the scenes stuff and just various topics that are related to the channel. And also you get early access to all of my new uploads. I would really like to take the time now to give a very, very special shout out to Raz, who is my very first top tier patron. You are awesome. You know who you are. And I just really want to thank you. Believe it or not, that happened on my birthday. So really cool birthday present. Thank you so much for watching this deep dive into dead malls. If you like the video, then like the video. And if you like the content on this channel and you'd like to see more in the future, then hit subscribe and don't forget to ring that bell. And if you really want to make my day, then there is a link to my Patreon. It is in the description below. Anyway, thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Oh man. So vaporwave.